Everybody quiet. It's 1:30. All right. I'm James Slanky. Thank you for coming and joining us today.
Loud. Loud.
More loud? More loud. This is my new Mr. Microphone. I'm not used to it. I don't know if it's even working.
Yeah, it is.
All right. So, first off, yay, Bella Vista! Best place to live in the world, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. It is awesome. We're new here. We're 4 years new here in Bella Vista, in Dallas. And all I've learned is why did I spend the other 62 years of my life in Dallas? Why wasn't I always here in Bella Vista? We love it here. Everything about it, the people, the houses, the neighborhood, the nature, the golf, all the activities. Best place in the world to live. Do y'all agree?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
All right. With something so desirable comes many more people that want to come and share that with you. And that means bringing in different new housing developments, new houses, different types of housing. So we have a new development plan down at the south end of Lake Bridge. Our neighbor, Lloyd, is developing the property. It's going to be a little different from what we're normally used to in development. Is that true? I mean, it's a little more eco-friendly, not your usual sticks and concrete sitting out there. She's taken a very careful approach to make sure she's trying to preserve the nature that is around her property and surrounding her property, as well as the lake that touches her property. And when word got out of the development, of course, we all jumped right into our pitchforks and torches mode like we always do in Bella Vista. It's new, it's different, and it might be in my neighborhood. So I thought, in all fairness, before we all do grab our torches and pitchforks, or get behind our neighbor and say, what a great deal, this is going to be awesome. But new neighbors is an awesome thing, and what you're doing is awesome. Let's get it right from Linda's now. So, without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Linda and let her tell us all about how it comes.
Okay, is this on?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, I want to thank everybody for coming. We have a limited amount of time, so I'm not going to talk too much. I prefer to do more listening to you. I do want to mention that with my broken neck and my neck brace, I cannot nod my head. That doesn't mean that I'm not paying attention to what you're saying. Please understand that. Just real quick about my background. I started in historic district renovations in Baltimore, in Maryland and Pennsylvania, then started designing and building green and healthy homes in Vermont. I did a large eco-village development in Virginia, and I received awards in Maryland and Virginia for my work. My house here is built with healthy building materials, is very energy efficient, and I don't have a water meter because I get all my water from rain. So, a little bit about why I might be wanting to do this. How many of you are familiar with the Arkmo property? Oh, a few. Okay, back when Bentonville was a dry county, the POA bought 366 acres along Gordon Hollow Road that was partially in Arkansas and partially in Missouri, which was wet at that point. Then when Benton County, allowed liquor, they didn't need that property. I spent 3 years walking around, researching, looking through that property, and put together plans for really eco-friendly development, including co-housing and an eco-village section and some recreation and that type of thing. Then the Walton kids kind of swooped in and gave the POA cash 45 days, which I couldn't do, and all my 3 years of work was out the window. So I tried to find other property and couldn't find anything. As you know, trying to develop in Bella Vista without public water and sewer is kind of a problem. So the end of last September and early fall, I started thinking, what do I want to do with the next 10 or 15 years of my life? I enjoy that piece of ground. It's the only lakefront and gulffront property in Bella Vista. This time of year, I cannot see another house. I can't see any other lights. But do I want to spend the next 10 or 15 years just enjoying that? And I felt, no, maybe I could do a smaller version, much, much smaller, of a co-housing neighborhood on that property and do it properly and eco-friendly. So then I started to research, and that's what got us to this point. Just a quick mention about co-housing. Most people have never heard about co-housing. It's been very popular in Europe for probably 60 or 70 years, and to a lot of places in the United States. Lots of times people have a 3-bedroom house that they don't need because Aunt Sally or their kids are going to come and stay once or twice a year. So they need that extra guest bedroom. Of course, they're paying for it, paying taxes, insuring it, cleaning it, heating it, cooling it, etc. Lots of times people need bigger garages because of all the stuff they have in there that they might only use once or twice a year, like drills and saws and extension ladders, etc. With co-housing, there is what is called a common house. And the common house has a couple of bedrooms. So Aunt Sally comes, she can walk down the street and stay at the common house. There's also going to be a tool lending library. So instead of filling your garage up with stuff you use once or twice a year, if you need tools or ladders, you walk over to the common house, sign it out just like a library book, take the tool home, use it, and bring it back. Next to the tool lending library, there'll be a bike workshop. So if you need to work on your bike, you can work on it right there. And a dog washing station. So that means people can have smaller houses that more fit, that give them better financial, less expenses with the common house. There's also going to be a shared vegetable garden, so people can do all of the vegetable gardening at the shared place. A perennial garden. So those are some of the aspects about co-housing that are so attractive throughout the country. This particular one is designed to be 55 plus and will not allow any short-term rentals. So it will be all owner-occupied. So that's pretty much what I have to say, and I'm open to answer as many questions as you all have.
All right, before we get into question and answers, open a little housekeeping. First off, if you didn't sign in on the way in, if you wouldn't mind signing in on the way out so we can contact you to keep you abreast of what's going on with this issue, I'd appreciate it. Second thing is I received a bunch of questions via email, so I thought if y'all would let me, I could go through those questions first. I think some of them may cover some common ground. We'll get those out of the way, and then we're going to open it up and let y'all each ask questions as you would like. With that being said, oh, one more thing. I want to recognize our city council members who are here, if you wouldn't mind standing up. Wendy Hughes, Gary Snow,
Craig Holmes.
and Craig Holmes. There you go. All right, so Linda, all right. A lot of the attention to development came when the variance hearing happened. And you applied for setbacks to be eliminated for garages. You have a big enough plot of land to put the houses on without that. Why was the choice made to go with the driveway?
Okay. Our commons will be developed through what is known as a planned zoning district, a PZD, excuse me. If you look at the city ordinances, it's 109-86 in the ordinances. That particular ordinance allows you to reduce the setback for houses to 0, but there's a section in it that does not allow you to do the same thing with garages. In order to do the innovative type of cluster housing with lots of open space, we needed to do a variance. It was basically a conflict in the ordinance. Now, many of you know that we have a consultant, Freeze and Nichols, who is redoing all of our city zoning and ordinances. If I had waited till next spring, that language is not in the current draft, so I would not have had to come for a variance.
All right. Is Al Commons going to be connected to the city sewer, or will it have its own septic system?
Well, it's not city sewer, it's village wastewater sewer and POA water, and yes, it will be connected. I currently live on the property, and I am connected to the village wastewater sewer. I'm not connected to POA water because I use rainwater.
Okay, given that the property is located downhill from the rest of the development next to you, who pays for the pumping or whether special infrastructure has to be done to connect to the village wastewater system?
Okay, most of the sewer hookups in Bella Vista are through a 2-inch forced main, and most of the houses do have pumps. So it would be pretty standard for what's in a lot of Bella Vista.
So the development pays for the infrastructure to pump it into the wastewater system?
Yes.
Okay.
There is no extra infrastructure. The developer will do the infrastructure that connects all the houses, and all of the houses will pay the same $25 a month that everybody else who's on public sewer does.
This is one that I got more than one entry for. So the land is just totally packed with trees. It's a very dense forest area. How many trees do you think will be eliminated in the development of the property?
Well, unfortunately, to develop anything, some trees have to go. Some thinning of the forest is good for the forest. The surrounding areas of the property will have very dense trees not touched. We're not going to do any development on any steep slopes, and it's taken quite a while to lay things out using the topography on this property. A lot of people who live on the lake are used to the steep backs on their properties, and you should know that I can drive to my lake frontage in a normal vehicle because it's not as steep as most of the lake properties are. I have a topography of the property. If anybody wants to look at it after, I'd be glad to review it with people.
This kind of follow-up to that. So if we remove trees to make room for property, and say it's paved or just improved, and as you mentioned, all our properties behind our houses are very steep going down. What will prevent all the runoff? Since Brittany is a watershed lake, what measures are you going to take to keep all the runoff that we created from the deforestation and development from entering into Lake Brittany?
Keeping Lake Brittany pristine is extraordinarily important to me. That's why anybody who knows where my house is, which is sort of in the middle of the property, there will be no new structures other than perhaps a kayak dock built closer to the lake than my house is currently. Keeping vegetated buffer and not developing any slopes or anything near the lake is of prime importance.
So no drains would breach the lake?
I would not be allowed to do anything that would allow drainage to reach the lake. Nor would I intend to even get close to doing something like that.
You brought up docks, which leads right well into the next question. So every property on Bella Vista Lakes is entitled, each lot is entitled to one dock, if it's a dockable property. So you have one big lot, you get one dock. Is that correct?
My plan includes only a kayak dock. I am not proposing anything larger than a kayak dock. I am not proposing pontoon boats or anything like that. Kayaks only.
Okay. So to get lake access, we all have to have activity cards or be Bella Vista POA members. So if I buy a house in your community, that automatically grant me access to all the amenities in Bella Vista, or will they each pay individual Bella Vista POA dues and fees?
No, each individual, just like all of your houses, each individual owner will have a membership and pay their own POA dues. Was that the question?
Yeah. Yeah. I think the question was driven by someone making sure we don't have someone just moving in and getting to take advantage of all the amenities that we all pay for without having to pay for them.
Absolutely not. Each house will be individually owned. All the common land will be owned by the Out Commons Association, just like the POA owns all the common land other places in Bella Vista.
Okay, we all subscribe to the ACC, the wishes of the ACC to keep our houses uniform and properties looking the same, and lots of list of do's and don'ts. Will outcomes be have to conform to those standards, or do you get to set your own?
Al Commons must conform to all Bella Vista ordinances and also ACC requirements. The rules are the same for everybody developing within the POA. We don't get any special consideration.
The white picket fences?
I'll pass on that.
Okay, let's see. What is the next step of approvals for you?
Okay. I've heard from some people who think that what happened with the garage variance was everything was approved. The garage variance is about this big in a plan this big. The only reason we needed to get that variance put together is so we can complete our planning. What is on the Al Commons website, what was in the Vista newspaper, is just our initial concept plan. It does not mean that's final. It does not mean that can't be changed or tweaked. The next thing I'm doing with my planning team is to go through, make sure we meet all the fire department regulations, and look at, is there something we need to tweak? There's one house that they showed that I thought was on too steep a property, so I'm already Xing that one off because I don't want to develop on slopes. So that's the next thing that happens in the process. Once my planning team and I determine what the concept plan is going to be, then they convert it to CAD, then it goes to the engineer. And the biggest, most expensive aspect of this is the engineer that has to lay out and engineer the roads, the utilities, the electric, the cable, where everything's going to go, how the houses are going to sit. And also as part of the PZD zoning application, I'm required to have every single house designed. So I must provide the elevations, the materials, the colors, the floor plans of every house that's to be built before I can go back to the Planning Commission for approval. So you can imagine that's a very lengthy and expensive process. And all throughout it, I'm sure there are things that will be tweaked. I'm going to take notes on people's questions and suggestions because I don't have all the best answers. So you all might have better answers that will provide a better neighborhood for folks. So that's the process.
So when do you anticipate the next time it would go before the Planning Commission? I know it's hard to put an exact date on it, but I mean, are we talking months? Are we talking a year, a couple of days, a week?
Oh, a week would be great. Had I not broken my neck April 6th and been stuck in a collar and not be able to drive since then, I can't even walk out on the property because of the possibility that I'm going to fall. So I'm going to be stuck in this now till at least October. So that's probably going to have an adverse effect on the timing. I was hoping by the end of the year to have something much more fleshed out. That may or may not happen. And of course, part of it depends on how busy the engineer is, how busy the architect is, when they can fit me in the schedule, what happens with the weather. So I would look, and dealing with the ACC in the city to make sure everything meets their requirements. So there's a lot of moving pieces and parts. Some will be going at the same time, some that will be sequentially. So I would prefer sooner rather than later, because I already have a bunch of people that say, save me a house. So I'd love to be able to give you a specific answer, but I can't.
I think the question drives towards another question, but and why a lot of people are gathered here. So this isn't a done deal.
Oh, it's no,
There will be
we're only at the
steps.
very beginning.
So there are steps where groups of people that they disapprove, they would be able to go to the city and say, no, we don't want this in our neighborhood.
Okay, one of the things I had intended to do is have community meetings. I didn't have it before this because the garage thing was just a little bitty piece, which is why I don't have a big audio-visual presentation to bring you, because we're just at the early concept phase. When I get further along, I'd be more than happy to have a community-wide get-together where I have something more specific to propose and to show you.
And my final question, all right, so a lot of the improvements that you're talking about, is especially your infrastructure to support a development like this. Me being a general contractor in and out of developments in big cities like Dallas, we're talking millions of dollars, literally, I would think.
Hopefully not that many zeros.
For your sake, I hope it's not. But are there any other investors or other groups that are involved with the development that will fund it?
Not at this point. I'm very early in that. The end of next week, assuming I can get onto the airplane, I'm going to the National Co-Housing Conference in Denver, where there will be lots of seminars and tours of similar communities in Boulder and Denver, meetings with developers, meetings about budget. So hopefully that will help inform how I proceed. And I do want to mention, somebody had said to me, well, gee, you're going to make a whole bunch of money on that. I want to make something real clear. I would make a whole lot more money if I just sold my property as it sits right now without doing anything. My goal is to come, hopefully, a little bit more than break even, because the lower I keep any potential profit, the better neighborhood and the more affordable the houses will be for folks. You know, if I were doing this to make a bunch of money, I should just stay selling real estate and forget about it. So.
All right, so we're going to open the floor up to questions. And if you could state your name before you ask, let us know who you are.
I'm Dee Horton.
Go ahead.
And I just have a question. Co-housing, is it like a co-op? Do they have a POA program within themselves that deals with our POA? How does that work?
Okay, the only co-op, I believe, in Arkansas, or the only 55-plus co-op in Arkansas is in Bella Vista. That, with a co-op, there is one mortgage. You don't own your home, you own shares in the corporation. That is a co-op model. So you can't go out and mortgage your home. That is not what we're going to do. It will still to be determined whether it's going to be individual lots or condominiums. Either way, you will own your individual home and be able to mortgage it or sell it as you prefer, as you wish.
And is there a group that would have to oversee everything? And are you collecting monthly whatevers for the upkeep and maintenance?
Right. Just like at Highland Park Villas, Highland Park Villas has its own homeowners association in addition to the POA, and they take care of certain things. Al Commons will have a similar organization that will take care of the common land, the common house, and those types of things. So yes, that's in development.
Linda, you said earlier, no multifamily. Does condominiums count as multifamily since they're Wells Canal?
No, a condominium is individually owned. Multifamily is usually one ownership. For instance, the current zoning of that property is R3. That would allow me to build over 100 rental townhouses if I so chose to do so. That would be multifamily because it would be a bunch of houses with one ownership. When it's individual ownership, that's not considered multifamily in the real estate realm.
Okay, just one more clarification. Just work our way back.
My name is Kathy Geyer. We live right off of Brittany Dam Road, so we get that beautiful lake view. My question to you, Linda, is there going to be a stipulation as far as your plan and your vision, once home ownership, if I go in and buy one of your homes, is there a stipulation that would prevent me from turning it ultimately into a short-term rental or a vacation?
Yes, our association documents will prohibit two things. Well, at least two. Short-term rentals will be absolutely prohibited, and outside cats will be prohibited. Sorry, cat lovers, but they kill a lot of birds. So.
That's cool. All right, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Kathy Griffith. Speaking about the kayak access, is that accessible to anybody who's a member of the POA in all of Bella Vista, or is it limited to this little pocket community?
It will be private property. It will be accessible to Al Commons residents only. No hordes of people coming from outside coming through the community.
That was the purpose.
Absolutely not.
That was the purpose of my question. Thank you.
All right, go ahead.
Hey, Linda, quick question. So, at 55 and Up community, I love that. I think it's fantastic. What, is it a deed restricted that made it 55 up and only, or if they decide to sell their home, how does that process work? Or if they pass away and it's their property, how does that process work to keep it at 55 in that community?
Yes. When you do a 55-plus community, it has to be specifically deed restricted that one of the owners has to be 55-plus. And I went back and forth on this because a lot of co-housing communities that are intergenerational are pretty wonderful because kids whose grandparents live in California have quasi-grandparents in the neighborhood. But the reason I ended up deciding to make it 55-plus is fewer cars. Teenagers tend to have cars. And I didn't want that much vehicular traffic through that neighborhood.
Hi, Linda. Walter Hinojosa, live on Lake Brittany. I'm just curious about the well, the lake well. There is one very near, if not on your property. Who will continue to own that well should we need it to fill the lake again?
Okay. The well that he's talking about is the well house that the POA owns. If you look at any plats of this, even on this little concept plan, there's a little white section right here. That is the POA well house. It is owned by the POA. They have an easement through my property for the water line and also for vehicular and truck access that must be maintained for them. So that is completely, that was one of the first things I told the planners we had to take into account. That must be done. So that's all protected.
I got a couple of questions. The first question is, Bella Vista has a minimum house size. How do you anticipate overcoming that? And if you overcome that, does that not open up the rest of Bella Vista to the same potential? And the second question is, I have a real concern about the safety on Fairway Drive. Fairway was not designed to be a high-traffic street. And that's a senior citizen area, so to speak. I think the majority of the people in that area are probably senior citizens. And 2 years worth of construction traffic and construction vehicles, construction workers that have a tendency not to comply with any kind of speed requirements. I perceive that as being a real issue. How do you intend to mitigate that?
Okay, good questions. First, to clarify on the minimum size, that was put in by the developer on every individual subdivision plat. This subdivision, it might be 700. This subdivision, it might be 800. This subdivision, it might be 1,000, 1,100, or 1,200. So that was done by the developer when Bella Vista was platted. When this plat is done and it is signed off by Cooper, a minimum size will be stated and approved for this development. As far as the traffic, I think anybody who's been down Fairway Drive knows that it kind of dead ends into my driveway. My understanding is that the reason there is no cul-de-sac there was because back in 1985, when all the Fairway Drive townhouses were built, there was a plan to extend Fairway Drive and put a whole bunch of townhouses where I currently live. So had that happen, there'd be a lot more traffic on Fairway Drive, but it didn't. And yes, traffic is certainly a concern, and nobody likes construction traffic and mud and all of that type of thing. I'm also going to be living on the property, so I will be definitely very aware of it, and we will do whatever we can to mitigate any issues for my townhouse neighbors. But I think they would prefer to have this kind of a development rather than a bunch of rental townhouses. But yes, it is a concern, Jerry, and I thank you for mentioning
that. Jan Parker, I live over on, we live over on Eppington Lane, right off the lake. Kind of following on the traffic question, I'm speculating that it's about 20, 25 homes is what you're currently thinking, and please correct me if I'm wrong. That also introduces traffic to Commonwealth and to Euston and Trafalgar, and since there are city planner folks here, is there going to be coordination with your group and the city to look at traffic and try to assess whether or not these streets can handle that additional traffic? Because sometimes it gets really congested and other times there's nobody. So it's hard to know what we're going to be facing.
Well, the city, I've been working very closely with the city planning department already, and will continue to work with them and the fire chief. And as the plan moves forward, we will certainly have to address any concerns that the city brings up or make adjustments. And there were some questions, if I can jump in, about the number of houses. What we're trying to do in our initial planning is, one of the initial plans the planner sent me was 42 houses, and I said, no, not going to happen, not going to do it. Because I don't want things that close together, I want more common land, I want more trees. We have to find the sweet spot between the number of houses that will allow us to do the road improvements, the common house, the gardens, and that type of thing, but not too many that the community would not function. And one of the things I'll be talking to people about at the co-housing conference in Denver is, okay, what did you find was the optimum number? What worked? What was too few houses to make the interaction in the community not work? How did the finances work? What did you find you needed to have in order to provide the amenities? So this currently shows 24, one of which will be for me because I currently have a 3-story house, and I'm thinking maybe it's time for a very small 1-story house. So the number is not set in stone at this point. That's one of the things we're going to continue to work with.
Yeah, my name's Kelly Strang, I live at number 4 Marianne Lane, Bella Vista. Hey, I'm not sure if Jerry's question got answered, and I'm curious. So, first, there's 2 questions. How big is that property you're talking about? And if you can do that on your property, can I do that on my property? Can I build some little homes on my property, or one little home?
Okay, my property is 7.69 acres.
Okay.
And when I purchased it, there is a clause in my deed that specifically says that I can subdivide with Cooper and ACC and city approvals.
Hi, my name's Kay Miller. I live on Fairway Drive. And my ears perked up when you said Cooper. What exactly is their involvement in this project?
Okay. I know there's a lot going on between Cooper and Blue Crane, and they've taken over the development rights and that type of thing. Okay. My deed specifies that Cooper has to give permission for subdivision. If it said the developer, I would now be dealing with Blue Crane, but that's not the wording that's in the deed.
Okay.
Joseph Peace, Joseph Bollinger, the proposed area is within my district. You mentioned before about the HOA, about forming that outside of the POA. Will that also be working on road maintenance for the property as well? And with that, will it comply with the current city regulations on street construction? And also, will there be a board for the HOA and oversight of funds? And also, what will be monthly fees for that HOA?
Okay, I may have missed some of that, but yes, the association will have a board, just like the Highland Park Villas has a board for their association. As far as the streets, I'm still going back and forth with the city as far as if it will be a public road or a private road. And we're waiting for information back on that. As far as construction quality, regardless of who owns the road, it must be built to city standards, as far as construction depth, as far as width, and of course the fire department requires a certain width also, so we must comply. PTD ordinance allows us to amend certain requirements. It does not allow us to amend street construction standards.
And one more question. You mentioned before about it being a 55+ community and also not allowing short-term rentals. Is there any just allowing of long-term rentals, and how do you regulate that?
Of course, the documents are not finalized. My thought is not allowing, I think we should allow long-term rentals only because, say we have somebody move into the community and they get a job transfer to Oregon, but they want to come back to the spot in our commons. I think it would be inappropriate for us to prevent them from doing a long-term lease on that property while they're away. So that's my current thinking. Nothing is definite, but that's how I'm thinking.
Well, I'm going to ask one more question that no one else wants to ask you. And so get it out and get it over with. As a member of the Planning Commission, as well as being a developer, does that not create a conflict of interest? And does your fellow commission members not feel an obligation to vote for whatever you may request in the form of a variance simply because you're a member of their board?
Okay, good question. Okay. First off, because I am on the Planning Commission, I am not allowed to participate in any discussions before the meeting, after the meeting, with any of the members of the Planning Commission. I have some folks that I see socially who are on the Planning Commission who knew absolutely nothing about this until the week before when the agenda and the packet came out, because I had followed the regulations and not discussed any of it with them. I did not participate in the discussion, nor did I participate in the vote. As far as any variances or waivers, the Planning Commission and the Board of Zoning Adjustments has very specific requirements that must be met in order to approve a variance. And in this particular, I was just looking for the list here. And those rules must be met by any applicant. I cannot get any special permission. All applicants must fulfill the same requirements, or the Planning Commission cannot legally approve it. So,
Oh, I know what that is.
so I don't get any special, you know, I think actually I might get scrutinized a little more carefully because of my planning background. So all the rules and regulations must be met by everyone. If they're Cooper, if they're me, if they're you, anybody has to meet the same rules and regulations.
I have one more question. Regarding the HMO versus HOA versus POA kind of stuff, at what point do we get resolved who Cooper is in all of this? Since it seems to now belong to the Walton boys. And has Cooper said anything to you about these plans?
Okay, I'm not sure who you think what the Walton boys own.
Yeah.
They own the developer's rights, so they are now in control of the ACC. The ACC must approve this. Cooper must also approve it because of the requirement in my deed.
Kyle Chapman, how are you? Did we ever get how many people are expected to be part of this community?
Any residents?
Yeah, how many residents are expected to be part of this community?
I would suspect that some of them might be single people, some of them might be couples. I have no information on that. I won't know until people say, hey, I want to buy this particular house.
So there's no limitations?
I think fair housing would prevent you from discriminating against any group or individuals from buying a house. Is that correct?
Well, there cannot be familial discrimination. A lot of these houses are going to be one bedroom and den, or one bedroom plus a little alcove houses.
I mean, it's worth a question because.
Sure, no. I mean, it's just
we
like.
work out here, and if there's a lot of people now working out, if there's a lot of people on the lake, I mean, that's why the question.
I totally understand. As a real estate broker, that's not a question I can ask when I sell a house.
If it's if it's an 800+ square foot house, is there a restriction on how many bodies can live in the house? How many people? Like 500 bodies, if we wanted to get 6 of our friends together that are 55+, can we live, you know?
It must be some pretty cozy.
Well, it's an illustration, of course.
I understand. There are fire department regulations as far as how many bodies can live in a house. And I don't have a quote for it, but I think it's 2 per bedroom.
Okay.
That's my understanding. Don't shoot me if that's wrong, but that I understand.
Thank you.
And that's the same for everywhere in Bella Vista. And don't get me started on STIs and occupancy. I'm not going to go there.
Okay, I have another question that came in on my email. If say you're down in the 700 square foot range, what do you expect the price point of the average property of our commons to be? Now that we've all gotten our assessments and seen how much our property values are, we're just curious, for 700 feet, are you going to spend $300,000?
I hope not.
Do you have any idea of pricing yet?
With what's happening with building materials and construction costs at this point, I might as well stand here with a dartboard and throw darts. There's no way to tell at this point. One of the things that I intend to do is cost engineer without cutting quality as much as I can. It's important to me that they use healthy building materials, that they be eco-friendly, that they be well insulated so they don't cost a whole bunch of money to maintain. My current 1,890 square foot house, I've only had a couple of electric bills in the 9 years that I've been there that are over $100. That's because it was properly sealed, properly detailed, properly oriented, and I expect that these houses will be even more energy efficient than that. So it's always a fine line. Some energy things might cost a little more, but save you down the road. So the engineering of those things and the costs is the finest line I need to tread in putting our commons together. One of the neighborhoods that has some similarities is Black Apple in Bentonville. And the prices of those things are beyond crazy. And I don't know how they even sell it, but keeping it as affordable as possible while having a quality product, that's my goal.
So there's no design, you don't have a figure you've given your planners or your architects saying, I can't sell a 700 square foot home for $300,000. We got to get it down to 2, anything?
That's very premature. We've discussed being cost effective, but we haven't even started the designing the homes aspect. I don't have any cost estimates from the engineers because we weren't sure what direction we were going. Once we have a better or more fleshed out concept plan, that's when that type of work can start in earnest. But right now, pick a number. I mean, it's just way too early in the whole process. As I indicated, the little garage variance is just a little bitty piece. There's all this extra work that still needs to be done.
So it sounds like your development company will be building homes, is that correct?
No, I've had, right before I broke my neck, I had interviewed a couple of builders, and I'm still talking with builders and looking at materials and determining what direction, what options we might have in that area.
But if you're not building the home, if you sell the lot to me, don't I just get to build the home I want?
No. As part of the planned zoning district approvals, floor plans, front elevations, rear elevations, material choices, etc., get all approved. That approval has to go through the Planning Commission and City Council. And once those plats are recorded, the city does not allow any variation from that plan without other approvals. So if I say house on lot 12 is going to be evergreen, and you say, no, I want a house that's burnt orange, well, you can't buy house number 12 because those approvals are very specific to what was in the plan. That's why I have to do all of that work up front, because it goes into part of the entire approval package.
I got one question. You talked about deed restrictions, and that Cooper would have to approve you to split your lot. Is there also a deed restriction that says if you split your lot that it only has to be a single family home when that split happens for the split?
These will all be single family homes. Yeah.
A development doesn't sound like a single family home to me, but
Yeah.
We'll see what Cooper has.
A single-family home is opposed to multi-family. If there were 4 townhouses and they were owned individually, those are single-family homes. If it was 4 townhouses under one ownership, that's multi-family.
Thank you.
Yeah, Linda, I'm just wondering how you propose to bring the required utilities to this property.
Well, water and sewer are already on the property.
I have a hard time believing that this existing water line is going to handle 20, 25, 30 additional homes.
I've been in touch with the water department, and once we have the concept plan fleshed out, the engineer will meet with the water department and discuss that.
Okay, how about cable and phone and electric?
Same thing. Yeah. Yeah, there is we will probably bring the electric in. There's a transformer that's kind of down in the hollow next to the POA well house. And they considered bringing the electric to my house from that. Transformer might not be the proper word for it. So I suspect that will probably be the way that the electric would come in. That's up to Carroll Electric.
This may be a goofy question, but I've heard it's not financial aspect, you could sell it otherwise. What's your why? What's your why behind this that the POA does not do today for someone moving in?
Okay. Part of that has to do with the 2040 comprehensive plan and the need in Bella Vista for different models of residential living. Currently, if somebody wants to downsize, well, they can go live in a townhouse. That doesn't work for a lot of people. A lot of seniors want to buy in Highland Park Villas. Those houses come on the market and are gone immediately. The Plaza is a 55-plus co-op. Co-op has some issues, and they're basically garden apartments. And then there's Concordia. All the time that I've been in Bella Vista selling real estate, people say, boy, we need some different types of residential models where I can downsize but be in a neighborhood that I know is 55-plus friendly, where I can meet my neighbors, where I can go to something like a common house and have potlucks or have bridge games, or I have a vegetable garden where I can raise vegetables and that type of thing. This type of, I don't want to say new, but it's been going on for 60 or 70 years throughout the world, is so well received that most of these communities have waiting lists because of the demand to live in such a neighborhood. And that's what I want to leave as my legacy for Bella Vista, instead of continuing development in Bella Vista that could have been done in 1970 or 1980.
Sir? Well, I'll admit your plan sounds attractive, but one of the things I read through the 2040 plan, and one of the things that they highlight in there as well is quality of life.
Exactly.
And I'm just wondering how you feel that this project is going to impact the quality of life of those who already live on Fairway Drive, because I don't feel too positive about it.
Well, and I understand that. During construction, it's not going to be fun. There's no way to sugarcoat that.
How long do you anticipate that the construction process would take?
And any kind of progress, anything that's a little different, is going to cause some discomfort. It's just a fact. It's just a fact. But the end result will provide a neighborhood that has extreme quality of life for the people that are going to live there.
For them.
Well,
At the cost of our quality of life, though.
we got one for you, Bill.
Not what I'm looking at, I'm happy where I'm at.
Wait a minute, there was a question over here. Construction period, yeah, it's a little early to say that until I meet and choose a builder and know how quickly they can progress things and know what the availability of building materials is when we're getting ready to start. I don't know. And it as Bill mentioned, it could be 2 years.
Sandy?
Yeah, since I've just glanced at the property, but it kind of looks like a horseshoe type of thing around the golf course. So I'm wondering if it's possible to have a construction entrance on one side so that fairway wouldn't be so impacted. I mean, you've seen other developments do that where there's a construction entrance only, even if it was just a makeshift gravel road for a year or two, and then could be covered. Is that possible?
I don't think the golf course folks would be real happy about that. The only road access is Fairway Drive. Even though the GPS tries to bring me across the lake every time I'm down on Grandshire, I don't think that would work for construction.
Go ahead.
Hi, Steve Waskowitz. You had mentioned a dock for like a kayak type of dock.
Yes.
What is there going to be some type of limitation on that? I mean, if you're talking that many houses and that many people, there could be 50 kayaks. I mean,
there would likely be a kayak storage area away from the dock. Just every time I get in my kayak, my knees say, "Oh my God, I wish I had one of those little kayak docks where you can kind of straddle it and get in the kayak." That's all I'm talking about. I don't want to impact the lake any more than that. So we'll find a spot away from the lake for kayak storage.
Didn't just your association purchase like 5 kayaks and they just, the whole community then uses them? So each of them buying their own separate?
That's a good, like a tool lending library, you have a kayak lending library. Good idea. I'll put that
because that's a pretty significant amount of small boats coming onto the lake if that truly happens, if it's 40 or 50 kayaks.
No, it's 25 houses.
25 houses and if there's 2 people, and I mean, I have a kayak and my wife has one.
How many of your neighbors do you see out on the lake at the same time? Barring holidays. Don't count July 4th or when they're having their great fireworks.
Before 4 o'clock, right after 4 o'clock.
Come to our area.
Yeah, our area.
Come around the corner.
20?
Yeah, we see about 5 to 20 on our code.
Yeah.
I think it's a daily deal. We're out there at 4 o'clock.
Every day.
Every day.
You must have something to offer that I'm not.
What do you want?
Don't tell anybody.
Walter?
I've got 4 kayaks on South Couple.
Okay, Walter, that sounds great. I'll put that down.
Okay, well, and I just have a suggestion that, and I don't even know if it's practical, but you were kind of talking about, I forget exactly how you termed it, but, like in the planning process, as you're firming up your plans and all the different people that need to kind of come together to make your vision happen. I'd like to suggest that it might be nice to invite 1 or 2 of your Fairway Drive neighbors or lakeside neighbors to be on it, just to give input and be your ear to the ground, so that nobody feels like they got blindsided at the last minute. Oh, there's a sign up and we've only got 1 week and we don't know what's going on. And I think it would be just helpful to use.
That is something that I had intended to do as we got into it. As I say, we're at the very, very beginning. And the garage variance was really a very small thing. And now we can move forward, and I'd be more than happy. And Bill, you're welcome to join us.
Oh, Brad, go ahead.
I have a question. Brad asked me, I live in Lake Brittany. Question, I don't know if most people have this on their brain, but having rezoned property myself, how does R3 happen there, and when did it happen?
Okay, I was not here, but my understanding is when we became a city in 2007, shortly thereafter, a bunch of people got together and assigned zoning to a variety of places. Now, some of it was done inappropriately, such as a clubhouse being zoned residential. Don't know where that came from. My belief is that it was zoned R3 because at that point, it was anticipated that there would be townhouses built on that parcel of ground. I can't prove that. I wasn't here then, but that it was my understanding.
So when you purchased, it was already R3 essentially?
To my knowledge, it's been R3 since 2007 or 2008.
Okay. And
it still is R3.
Okay. And so that allows you for a lot more density than you're talking about, but you haven't finalized your plans, right? And so I think a lot of people's questions are to do about if it's single family and you've listed that, you know, a duplex, it can be a single family, and a townhouse group can be a single family. Do you have that already figured out at all in terms of the mix?
As it's shown right now, they are all detached houses. That does not mean that there could not be some semi-detached or townhouses. The planners have put together this concept plan. In the next ensuing month or so, we'll be meeting again to push that a little bit forward. So that could change. It's to be determined.
And your existing house, you said that you're hoping to land in one of your new houses. What's going to become of it?
It would be sold.
I see. And my hope is that then you can coordinate with, or keep James apprised for the rest of us lakefronters, and when plans are submitted and things like that?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Hey, community interaction, everywhere that I've done development, community interaction has been #1 on my radar screen. Had we been further along, we would have already had this kind of thing.
It was just a surprise to most of us.
Oh, I understand. Yeah, Chris?
So you said that the city zoned it as R3, I guess making an assumption because of the townhomes, then that effectively would mean that the townhomes are zoned R3. Are we confident that the townhomes on Fairway are zoned R3?
No, not according to my map.
I'm unclear. That's,
okay.
and there was a question about zoning and taxing. Benton County taxes on use. Benton County does not tax on zoning. The planned zoning district, it doesn't matter whether it's currently R3 or C4. Planned zoning district will be its own zoning district. There's only one development in Bella Vista that has been done under the planned zoning district, and that's Country Club Villas, which is the 48 houses off of Dogwood, between Dogwood and the Country Club. That's the only existing PZD in Bella Vista.
I got to follow up on that though, is because we know that the city, acted hastily whenever they were doing all the zoning to become a city. And so if yours was, and we know that they erroneously zoned things, so if your property was erroneously zoned as R3, then, and it shouldn't have been because the townhomes are not zoned R3, then what is the corrective measure for that?
If that would be up to the city. If my property were zoned currently R1, I could still come to the city with a planned zoning district application. So what it is currently zoned really doesn't affect this proposal. Does that answer your question, Chris?
I think so.
Any other questions? Well, I want to thank Linda for coming today, for sharing the information. I want to thank all of y'all as neighbors for coming and getting concerned about it, and we need to do this more often. One thing that I find myself guilty of is when you move to Paradise, you forget what a privilege it is. And you take it for granted that there's other people out there looking out for your interest to preserve that paradise so it exists in perpetuity for your time on this earth.
that is not true. You need to be diligent. You need to be a diligent neighbor. It doesn't mean you have to be nosy. It just means look around. Know your neighbors. What are they doing? What are their interests? Do I like them or not? Does everybody else like them or not? Get out there and meet people and get together. I'm so lucky I was able to get into this position by default because the guy retired. So I get to meet all of you, and it's definitely my privilege to do that and try to be a central communication point for you.
I did want to mention, I know we're running out of time for the room, but if anybody wants to look at the topo or the plat of my property, I'm very happy to share it with you.
Real quickly, would you be willing to share your email with us, so if we think of something after we've left, we could follow up with a question?
The Al Commons website is now up, and the email and phone number is on alcommons.com.
Okay.
So that's the easiest way for you to track me down rather than giving phone numbers and emails.
Okay.
James, can I say one thing?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
People attend your city council meetings and your planning commission meetings. There's all kinds of things happening in Bella Vista now. There's going to be even more. So if you don't attend the city council meetings to find out what's happening, then you're going to be in a situation like this, and where it's going to be a surprise to you.
And I did have some people question about where the zoning hearing sign was put. It must be on the property in question, so it could not have been put out at Commonwealth Avenue. The city staff put it there. I didn't see it till it was up for 3 days. And if you go on the city website, you can get agendas and packets for city council meetings, planning commission, board of zoning adjustments. They're on there 3 to 4 days or sooner ahead of the meeting. So you can just go on and get the complete packets for everything that's going to be discussed at all of our public meetings. And attend.
All right, so for me as a communicator here, and the guy that organizes this fun event, we have 2 video crews here today. One is with the Northwest Arkansas Exchange podcast. This is Kevin Dooley. He does the videography for the city, captures his account. Hopefully between the 2 of them, I'll be able to send out a link to everybody so that those who couldn't attend will be able to review the meeting and everything that was discussed here, spread the word. Also, as I mentioned or may not have mentioned, I run the Lake Brittany Residence Directory. If you're not in it, you need to be. If you're on Lake Brittany or touch Lake Brittany or a street dead ends into Lake Brittany, you need to be in the directory because we are probably one of the more active neighborhoods as far as get-togethers, who we know, and everything else. It's a great place to be. Annual Christmas party, we have our fireworks display, which everyone loves, I'm sure. But anyway, I think it was great. We had a great turnout. This is awesome. I was so glad to be able to be in a position to where we clear the air. Again, we're all neighbors. If it is our neighbor, we're going to have to give her the benefit of the doubt. This could be a dream of hers, and she's been doing this all her life. So this is maybe her final, statement to the world of, I'm trying to be kind to you. So keep that in mind as we go on forward. But from this point on, you're now dealing with facts. You have them. Use them. Share them. Get out there. Talk it up. Whether you're for it, against it, want to work for Linda, don't work for Linda, live in her neighborhood, whatever, you need to be vocal about it. Don't be so quiet. Everyone knows. But anyway, thank y'all for coming. I appreciate it. And if you have any other questions, I would be happy to give you my email or my phone numbers. Contact me. Y'all have a good day.
Yeah, thank you.